What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel that is Sam X Carter. Today I'm making a tier list for cameras, specifically Canon, Nikon, and Sony. Big shout out to my friend Kitman for recommending I make this video. But before we jump into the tier list, just a quick disclaimer. I wouldn't use this list as a guide if you're looking to buy any of these cameras. But if you're interested in a video where I recommend cameras to buy, go ahead and leave a comment down below and maybe I'll get to making one of those videos. But anyways, without further ado, let's jump right into the list. So I have here 18 cameras. I have Canon, Sony, and Nikon right here. So for this list, I grabbed some of the most high-end cameras that each of these brands offer, and then I went down the list from there. For both Nikon and Canon, I included their new mirrorless cameras because Sony obviously is all mirrorless, but I wanted to make sure Canon and Nikon had a fair shot. I included full frame, APS-C, and then other crop sensor cameras. If you have any questions about anything that I say, please feel free again to leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer and clarify anything. So jumping into this list, let's take a look at the Canon 5D Mark IV. Now what I love about this camera is that it has 2 card slots, which means you can shoot redundant. And because of that, I really consider it one of Canon's professional cameras, because they might claim that these are all professional cameras, but really I only consider professional if it has 2 card slots. And because of that, and just the fact that it's a really great full frame camera, I'm gonna put the Canon 5D Mark IV in the A. Moving on to Nikon, I'm thinking we'll go with the D3400. Now this camera, I think, is a crop sensor camera, and crop sensor, you know, there's all sorts of arguments out there that crop sensor isn't that bad, and I've definitely seen some great images from crop sensor cameras, whether it be Nikon or Canon or whatever, but I just can't deal with the fact that you're not going to have as good of a dynamic range, you're not going to get high ISOs without a ton of grain, and also, you know, it's just kind of like a basic entry-level camera. And you know, there's not much else to say about it. The kit lenses that come with it are okay, but they're certainly not the best glass that you could get out there. And because of that, I think I'm gonna have to put the D3400 in the E category. So Sony's are all really good, and it was hard for me to pick from their lineup, finding a balance between the awesome cameras and the bad ones, because honestly, even their mid-level cameras beat out a lot of these other ones. But so for example, let's start out with, let's do the A9. So the A9 is by far one of the best cameras on this list. It has 2 card slots, and of course it has all the benefits of a mirrorless camera, so you can move those focus points anywhere you want. You're not confined to the middle of the screen. It has an amazing EVF, really great 4K, great stills. It's great for stills and for video. It's just an all-around really, really good camera. And if you're starting out and you're looking at these 3 brands, a lot of people are probably going to go the Sony route after doing their research just because of what Sony offers. The only complaint I have for Sony is their bodies of the camera just don't feel that great. You know, I would like these others, the Nikons and the Canons, they feel like cameras in your hands. The Sonys feel sturdy-ish, but they kind of also feel like a toy. But this A9, you cannot beat it. This A9 deserves to go right in the S category. Jumping back over to Canon, let's go through the mirrorless. So we'll look at the Canon EOS R. I was pretty disappointed when this camera came out, not gonna lie. I was really hoping that Canon would up its game and try to compete with Sony and all the things that they're doing with mirrorless. In terms of comparing it to Nikon Z7, the Canon EOS R is basically the equivalent of the Nikon Z7 or Z6, either one. They're all very close. There's lots of pros and cons to both of these. I'm gonna probably have to give this one to the R, putting it in C, just because of the glass that they came out with this camera is absolutely ridiculous. Even though the camera might not be that great, the glass alone is just beyond phenomenal. I'll put this Nikon Z7 in the same list just because it is a little bit better than the camera is a bit better, but Nikon right now does not have as much glass coming out. Looking at the Sonys again, The only camera that I could see comparing to these ones, because these are both mirrorless and all of Sony's are mirrorless, would probably be the Sony a7 III. Even though the a7 III is a bit older, it still holds up so good against these because it's almost the perfect camera, just like the A9. It just has an older sensor, but you know, you can get away with older sensors. Even, like I said, even their middle ground cameras are really, really fantastic. My favorite cameras of all time here is the Canon 1DX Mark II. If you watch Peter McKinnon or really most professional vloggers or whatever YouTubers you want to call them, use the 1DX or have spoken of the 1DX because it is an absolute beast. It has 120 frames per second, and you know, even your iPhone has 120 frames per second, but there's a difference because of the file size and the codec and everything like that. So like Canon's 120 frames per second is much better than what your iPhone can do. And same thing with like 4K and everything like that. 4K on your iPhone is not the same as 4K on a professional level camera because the sensor size is different. And phones are certainly gaining on the professional cameras, but I don't think they will ever replace it fully. But anyways, I'm going on a kind of a rant here, but I would definitely put this also in the S tier because just of how amazing it is. And it should be amazing considering that it is Canon's flagship model. Actually, going back to Nikon again, we'll take a look at their flagship model, which would be the Nikon D5. The D5, I had to do some looking into this because I don't really know much about Nikon in general, but compared to the other flagships, the A9 and the 1DX Mark II, it's a bit overpriced, I think. So like these two, I think, come in around, this one comes in about 6,000, this one's about 7, but this one I think is almost 8 grand. And compared to these two, I don't see why this is so much more because the video is not that great. Autofocus in Nikon for video is notoriously bad. I know they're fixing it a bit with like the Z lineup and everything like that, but still it's not the best. And also like the stills, like the Canon probably beats it out in the stills, the Sony beats it out in the video, like we'll just say that. So for that, I'm gonna put it in A tier just because it still is a very viable camera. Going back to Sony, we'll take a look at this, whatever the heck this is. I had to go looking for bad Sony cameras because I found, you know, good cameras of each and bad cameras of each. But so this camera is the Sony RX100V. Now the benefits of Sony and the fact that they're mirrorless is that they're much smaller than any of the other cameras. One downside to that is of course like how I said it, how it feels in the hands, and that's great to an extent. With this, it's like this is way too small. This looks like a toy, right? This is just, I don't know any specs on this, but it just does not look like, if someone pulled up to my wedding or my senior shoot and I saw them coming with this, I would probably just turn them right around and tell them to go home. Sorry, but that's just how I feel about that. So for this, I'm gonna put this one in the F tier. And now let's take a look at the Canon 6D Mark II. This is the camera that I'm actually filming on right now. And if you go on YouTube and you look up this camera, it's really, really heavily debated on if this camera is good or not. I've been really, really happy with it. The stills that come out of it are very good. I love Canon's color science. The fact that it's a full frame and still around, I think, 1500, it's like a great deal. I wish it had a second card slot like the 5D4, and I also wish it had a headphone jack so I could check audio, because I kind of have to look at levels on a screen and just hope that the levels are, you know, accurate and that it sounds okay afterwards. But other than that, I think it's actually a really great camera. I think people like hate on this camera way too much, and they don't really give it a fair chance. And I'm gonna put the 6D in the B slot because I wish I could put it in A, but maybe if it had another card slot and that headphone jack, I could do it. But I just can't bring myself to do it. The Nikon D850, I think this is. Did I grab it out? Yeah. So the Nikon D850 is basically Nikon's version of the Canon 5D Mark IV, but I can't really put it in the same category. So there's a bigger difference between Canon's flagship model and their second best, but the difference between Nikon's first or best model and their second best, which is the D850, is a little bit closer. I would really compare this to the 6D Mark II, the one that I'm using right now. So for that, I'm gonna put it also in the B category. I can't put this camera at equal to its to the best flagship model. Taking a look at this one, so this, interestingly enough, is actually not a bad camera. It looks similar to that other RX100V. But the thing is, it actually has a really nice sensor to it. And by the way, Sony makes all of the sensors in all these cameras, even though they don't make the cameras themselves. These companies buy their sensors from Sony, but Sony of course keeps the best technology for themselves, which is smart on their part. But once again, this is way too small, but still a pretty decent camera. I forget what the specs were, but looking at it, I put it in the D category. Going back to Canon, we have the Canon T7i, which is the best of their Rebel series. So it's like before you get into their intermediate series with the D series, like the 77D, 80D, all those. So this is like probably the most common of the beginner level cameras that you could buy. You know, it'd probably be great for a vacation or something, but I wouldn't do anything really professional with it. And I have seen some good stuff again come out of crop sensor cameras like this, but it's still a pretty decent camera. I don't know, but because it is a beginner camera and not really up to par with even the intermediate ones that Canon has to offer, I'm gonna have to put it in the E category. Moving on again to Nikon. So the Nikon D500, this is hard because a lot of cameras honestly are like in the middle ground, because there's not that many things differentiating them, and the things that do are very minimal. They might not matter to some people, but they might matter to others. So honestly, just for the fact I don't really know much about this one, and I know it's a mid-level camera, I'm just gonna put it right in the middle with the others. Like, people might disagree with this, but honestly, it depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you're looking on picture quality or video quality or sensor size or whatever, you know, this is gonna be different. If you're looking at lenses, you know, what it has to offer, it's gonna come out different. But mostly I would put these all in the C category. Actually, I'm gonna change this up. So the Nikon D500, I'm gonna put it up here because the D750 is just a little bit lesser than the other one, but I don't think it deserves to be in the D category. So I'm gonna put it in the C with the others. Oh, this is the Sony A7R2. This is a close one between A and B for me, honestly, because it's very similar to the A7 III. It's much newer than A7 III. Improved sensor size. It's an improved sensor for sure. Still really great video compared to the A9. I think this is Sony's second best camera, but I can't really put it up here in the A, so I'm gonna have to put it in the B. The Canon 77D. This camera is definitely an intermediate level camera, but it's just before, I think it's just before you get into the full frame lineup. And again, the kit lenses that comes with is pretty okay. The video, you know, some YouTube channels actually use this camera, and it works for them. Like, I know I think D4 Darius, he shot an entire film on this. Maybe not this, but maybe the 80D. It's still a good camera, but because it's intermediate and it's not, you know, you get your kit lenses and it's crop sensor, I'm gonna have to put it in D. And taking a look at the last Sony here, the Sony A7R III. Oh, excuse me. So this was the A7R2. This is the A7R3. I don't know. I had a lot of cameras on this list. It was kind of hard to put it all together, but this one is definitely, this is the second best camera that Sony offers, so it's definitely gonna have to go in the A. This also has 2 card slots. Yeah, this has 2 card slots. Once again, it has the benefits of being a mirrorless camera, the small form factor, the lightweight, EVF. But anyways, this is the tier list. Like I said before, it's, you know, kind of rough, just a rough estimate of where I would put these cameras. It's hard to keep all the stats in mind, and also, mostly for this, I'm thinking about personal preference for what I do and keeping all those things in mind. So once again, I wouldn't pay attention to this list if you're looking to buy a camera right now. But yeah, so that about wraps it up. I hope you guys liked this video. I know I had a lot of fun making it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.